Hey, Utah Mammoth fans, tusks up, and welcome into your Utah Mammoth Daily update. So, today, let's talk about the preseason and the prospects a little bit more. Preseason hasn't exactly delivered in the win column for Utah, clearly, but the real scoreboard right now is development. Coach Andre Turigny has made it clear these games are tryouts. So while the fans might be disgruntled, myself included, by seeing the team lose repeatedly, 6-1, 5-1, 3-2, that one was a little bit better. These games are more about understanding what is in the pipeline, who is NHL ready and who is not. They already have the guys from last season. They know what they have from them. But guys like Daniil Boot, Dmitry Simashev, Cole Bedoin, and Tij Ginla, these reps matter more than final scores. And the guys who show growth now are the ones who will push for roster spots when the season begins. So let's talk about Daniil Boot a little bit. He lit the lamp against Colorado, showing flashes of the big, skilled winger he can be. The puck movement with his stick was outstanding on his goal, and he is pretty darn close to being NHL ready. Let's talk Dmitry Simashev. He looks more NHL ready by the game. He's showing poise on the blue line. I would like to see him get a little bit more physical just because he is a bigger guy. But with the logjam that is the blue line, it'll be interesting to see how much Bill Armstrong and Andre Turigny want to go for youth over experience and vice versa, because there is that logjam on the blue line. Cole Bedoin, he's learning the systems quickly, and he's carving out a niche role down in those bottom six forward lines. So maybe something pops up there for him for a little bit just because of all the injuries that I detailed last time. But we'll have to see with Cole Bedoin. He was a first-round pick, but he was later in the first round, and he's still really young. And speaking of really young, Tij Ginla, he's healthy, and he's working to prove that he can stay in the lineup and that he's more than just his father's name, and I think he's doing a good job of that. I've seen him in a couple of interviews, and he looks really calm and composed. He looks the part, so I think he's as close as anybody in this group to be in the NHL lineup. Up next, it's not just the young guys. We've got a veteran who's trying to prove that last year was an aberration and not a harbinger of things to come. So let's face it, Lawson Krause had a rough year last year. He had a dip. Some people call it a dip in goals. I'm going to call it a canyon in goals. Way fewer points and stretches where he just wasn't the same physical tone setter. But this season is a clean slate. Krause says his mindset is back to the basics. Clear head, focus on the little things, and bring that trademark edge every night. He's already earned the locker room nickname the Sheriff, and he wants it back in full force. And let's call it like it is. Last year was a weird year for the players. Brand new city, brand new state, all new everything, really. The coaching staff was the same. The support staff was largely the same. And the front office was the same. But new digs, they still had to find places to live. They had to acclimatize themselves to the state of Utah and the new culture that they were in. So this year, the players should be more back to normal. With Utah's lineup shifting, expect Krause to stabilize the third line alongside Jack McBain and Alexander Kerfoot when those guys are more healthy. If he can rediscover his two-way game and bring that sandpaper edge, almost like a chainsaw edge, he'll be critical to Utah's bottom six identity, and he has shown that he has that edge back already in the preseason, sticking up for his teammates for dirty hits, and he's that guy again. So having him be the leader in the locker room, just like he always has been, is going to be great, but having him be the leader on the ice now is going to be something that is going to potentially push this team to that next step, more so than the young talent coming up and the free agents coming in my opinion, because you just need that rock in the bottom six, and he is that guy. He's that kind of guy, and he's actually pretty good at scoring the puck. So we'll see what happens with Lawson Krause, but speaking of the lineup, let's talk about the top. So there's been a lot of mad scientists going around with Andre Turigny and the coaching staff just to see what's happening in the early part of this preseason. I would imagine this game against the Vegas Golden Knights, and remember, I record these a day ahead of time, so that game hasn't happened yet, but I imagine that the the Golden Knights game might be the last one where the experimentation happens. Maybe they'll go one more before they get their lineups set. But Utah's forward depth is very interesting, and the buzz is around a possible first line of Logan Cooley, Dylan Guenther, and J.J. Peterka. Now, I don't like that buzz because the buzz is coming from a lot of different places. Clayton Keller is the best player on the team. He should be in the top line. But if you can manage to have your best player on the team on the second line, that kind of frees him up to be a little bit more because he's not going to be matched up against the top line of the other team either. So there is some intrigue going on there. The three young, skilled forwards can play fast, attack off the rush, and maybe catch defenses off guard. Cooley already proved he can produce at a near point per game pace. He's like 20, 21 years old, so he's only going to get better. Add in Gunther's shot and Peterka's finishing, and Utah could have one of the league's youngest and most dangerous top lines. Now, personally, I would put this as a line 2, but I'm not Andre Tourigny or Bill Armstrong, so that's where I would have them. Of course, the rest of the roster matters too. Guys like Krause, McBain, Kerfoot, Stenlund will grind out middle 6 minutes, while Tanev, O'Brien, Carcone, and Yamamoto all battle for the last slots. If the balance clicks, Utah won't just be fun, they'll be tough to match up against. And then, honestly, you could just put Keller in any of those lines, and he would just make it all go up, improve the performance of everybody on whatever line he's on. Personally, though, he's top line material. He's not going anywhere out of that top line. But listening to and reading a bunch of different people and articles about this new top line that Andre Tourigny is experimenting with, it's interesting to see. But with Logan Cooley dealing with his injury, we're not going to see it for the rest of the preseason, I would imagine. And so that will still have to remain in the ether here and not be something that's real. So how does all of this stack up nationally? Well, let's check out the buzz, because it's not just Utah fans wondering where the Mammoths stand. National outlets are weighing in too and trying to figure it out. A lot of people were not expecting the performance of the Utah Mammoth, especially in the transition from Arizona to their new locale, new fan base, everything that goes alongside that move. And it happened pretty quickly too. So this year is going to be more of what we're going to be seeing moving forward with the franchise, and the identity and all of that stuff will start to roll in. So ESPN's early Cup contender list doesn't have Utah in the top tier. Clearly, nobody should have Utah in the top tier unless you are a diehard, blinders-on fan, which I'm not. But they're flagged as a team that could break into the playoff conversation with continued growth. The Athletic pointed out that Utah was just a few points shy of a wild card last season, finishing hot down the stretch. They argued that a bounce-back year could put the Mammoth in the postseason mix, and bounce-back years for a couple of guys on the roster are expected, Lawson Krause chief among them. So I think that Utah is a playoff team. I do. And locally, questions still remain: consistency, depth, and how fast the young stars mature. The big takeaway is the Mammoth aren't being overlooked anymore. They're not an afterthought like the Coyotes were season after season. Analysts see a team with real upside, but they're waiting to see if Utah can turn potential into results. That's always the trick with young rosters. We'll see if Utah could do it this year or if we're still a year away. But that'll do it for today's Utah Mammoth Daily. Prospects making noise, veterans reloading, lines forming, and national spotlight slowly brightening. And you can also see that with how many national games Utah has. We'll be back tomorrow with more as camp and preseason roll on. Tusks up, and I'll see you then.